So we've spent some time thinking about how you might use social media during your event. We're now going to come on to thinking about how you might use it actually after your event and what you need to do before your event in order to plan your use of social media. So first and foremost, we're going to have a look at what you might do with social and digital media after an event. And for me, the 3 C's are absolutely critical here. You need to make sure that you're capturing content. You need to think about how you curate content, how you pull it together and make sense of it, maybe aggregate different feeds of content from different places. And you need to think about the COPE acronym, create once, publish everywhere. This is the kind of mentality that you might want to be in when you're thinking about the use of the social and digital media content that you've gathered from an event afterwards. It's not just useful for that event or for the people that were there, but it might have multiple uses. So always maintain that kind of mentality. Create once, publish everywhere. So some of the things you might think about doing, so capturing the content, you might be thinking about making sure you're recording some of the event and sharing that content on somewhere like YouTube. This could be interviews with people that have attended the event, it could be interviews with your speakers, it could be recording some of the content that took place at the event. Always make sure that you've got people's permission to share that content, but make sure that you get it online and spread it far and wide. Pay attention to editing. It's really worth making sure that the content is well edited afterwards, otherwise it might not make very much sense to people who weren't at the event who may then go on to watch it afterwards. You might want to think about capturing some images from the event and sharing them on a site such as Flickr. You could also of course upload them to things like Facebook pages and your photo section there. Be careful with thinking about images at an event. Firstly, you need to make it clear to people attending the event that images will be taken, that photographs will be taken, and that those images could be used online and could be used in social media. You need to give people the opportunity to be able to opt out of that if they have a problem with it. And of course, if you're ever dealing with taking pictures of young children, then you really should make sure that you have parental permission before you do it. And in those permissions, you make it very clear the use that photography is going to be put to, including the use online on social media. And it's very easy for us to take lots and lots of photos of the audience at an event and see them doing things, but we need to think, does this content add any value to anybody's experience online after the event? Pictures of people enjoying drinks at a cocktail party, pictures of people listening intently to a speaker at some kind of lecture. Those images might seem good for us, that we were there at the event, we know the event, but do they actually add any value to the people who might be looking at those images online, or do they just create essentially more online noise that don't actually really tell people anything about the event? You might during the event want to use something like Audioboo. Audioboo is an audio recording service. It's available on as an app on Android and iPhone, but it's also available online as well, so you can upload audio content to your desktop through your desktop into a web browser. And it's a really good way of just capturing some short interviews with people at the event and sharing them. You don't have the concerns that you have of recording video when you're recording audio, so sometimes it's a very quick and easy thing to do, and you can be doing it live during an event as well. You can also then embed that content from Audioboo into other platforms and spaces such as your Facebook page. SoundCloud is another tool that you might want to familiarise yourself with. It's similar to Audioboo, not quite the same in terms of the way the technology works, but it's a good site for hosting audio content and sharing audio content from there. SlideShare is a great site for sharing slides after an event. So if you've had a speaker give a PowerPoint presentation and you want to share that PowerPoint presentation afterwards, you can upload them to SlideShare and you can embed those slides into other websites and blogs directly from slideshare.net. You can also upload an audio track alongside those slides and synchronize that to the slides. So you may want to record the speaker and you can then synchronize it so that as the speaker's talking, the slides change at exactly the right moment. So people who weren't at the event or who might want to listen back over a talk can listen to that talk again. But again, you need to make sure that you've got the speaker's permission to be able to do this. You might want to think about using a tool like Storify to curate the content, to gather content together, to look at that back channel, look at what everyone else was saying about your event and to pull it together in a meaningful feed. And tools like Lanyard as well can also help you achieve that. So let's just have a look at these two tools quickly. So on Storify, you're able to search for content online and pull that content together in a very visual way. So you end up with a big long stream of content, a little bit like you can see in front of you here, although you can't see the entire stream of it, where you can pull that content into one big long page. You can add text and commentary to make sense, to explain what some of the content is, but you can pull together lots of content, whether it's been searching by a hashtag or just something that you've seen online, to really curate all the buzz, all the activity that's been taking place at your event. With Lanyard, you can pull together lots of kind of speaker details. You can pull together additional resources that people might have shared at an event. This is one that a talk that I was involved at last year. Here we have a very kind of simple synopsis of what the talk actually was, the speakers and links to our social profiles on there, and then some additional information that we've chosen to share, links that we've chosen, extra resources. Down the bottom there you can see that we've embedded the Prezi presentation that was used for the event as well, and lots of different information there. This particular section was set up for the entire conference, so every single session that took place in that conference, every single breakout had one of these pages created for it, so people could go back after the event and have a look back over that. But of course it then becomes useful for promoting events in future, where you can show them the quality, the types of resources that they will get from that people have had from previous events, gives them a little bit of an insight into future events as well. So really curating that content and making the most of it. So we're now just going to move on to think about what you need to consider before you actually plan an event and before you're considering your use of social media at your event. So for me, 3 things you really need to think long and hard about. Your objectives, your targets, and your purpose. In other words, why do you want to use social media at your event? Don't ever use social media just because you think you ought to. You need to be very clear about what you want to get out of it. So from thinking about your objectives, what are your business objectives for using social media? Why do you want to reach people either at the event or outside of the event in this way online? What kind of expectations are you going to set yourself? What kind of targets might you have? And what kind of purpose is your use of social media actually going to fulfill that the experience of attending that event by itself won't fulfill? What are you trying to address? What are you trying to get out of this? Don't ever use social media just for the sake of using social media. So you need to really plan long and hard what you're actually going to do about this, and you need to plan early. So one of the things you really need to do is get to know your audience. You need to know what makes your audience tick, what their wants and needs are, for you to be able to tailor content during the event, before the event, and after the event that really taps into their wants and needs, that really provides them with something of added value to their lives that's really going to make them want to engage with the experience online. You're going to need to know their communications preferences. Do they even use social media? Do they like social media? Do they just use it to communicate with their friends? And might they therefore think it's not an appropriate channel for you to be reaching out to them during an event? Do they have access to mobile devices? This is particularly important if you're thinking about planning the use of apps or a mobile site for your event. Do they use social media on those mobile devices? And what's their social technographics profile? How do they actually use and engage with social media themselves? What type of person are they online? Are they someone that creates a lot of content and is very chatty and conversational online? Or are they the kind of person that's just going to listen? If they're the type of person that's just going to listen to conversation, then you need to work harder at that content creation. Whereas if you have a lot of people who are very chatty online and likely to create their own content, then the back channel will be much busier and you can do more of a curation job and less of a content creation job. So these are the social technographics profile categories. So your creators are the kind of people who create lots of content online. They're very busy online. They write their own blogs. They create their own videos. They record their own podcasts. Conversationalists are people who like to share sort of short bursts of information. They're probably tweeting. They update their Facebook status a lot. Critics are the kind of people who comment on other content that they see online. They might post reviews, post comments on blog posts, but they don't necessarily create content themselves. Collectors are your online curators. These are people who will use platforms like Storify and Lanyard and social bookmarking sites and social sharing sites like Reddit and Dig and Delicious to be able to share content with other people and really try and shape that content and make sense of it, but they're not necessarily creating that content themselves. Your joiners are people who are in social media platforms and services that require them to sign up in some way. They need to have put in an email address and some kind of password to become part of an online community. Your spectators probably aren't in that category. They may feel nervous about giving out information about themselves in order to become part of a profile. So they probably won't have joined anywhere. So they're not going to be on Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter. They're just going to be looking at social media activity. So they might read your Twitter feed, but they won't follow you on Twitter. They might read your blog posts, but they're not going to comment on them. They're just going to passively engage with social media activity. And then there's the inactives. These are people who don't use social media content at all. So we need to know which category your different segments of your audience actually fall into, because this is going to help to shape and dictate the way in which you use social media at your events. So let's think about other things you might need to think about before. You might want to look to other events that you can see going on and look at the social media stream and the back channel that's taking place for those events. From there, you might be able to find some content sources. You might have a great speaker come into your event who's just spoken at somebody else's event, and at that event they've recorded the speech or they've done a little interview with them. They might have put the person's slides online. Can you use that content? Can you get permission to use that content as part of your promotional activities for your event as well? Can you use the back channel at other events, very similar events that you know your audience has liked, to even identify speakers in the first place? Often you'll see on Twitter, if there's a great speaker at a conference, people will be saying on the back channel what a wonderful speaker this person is. You can get a real sense as to whether a speaker is great or whether a speaker is absolutely bombing at an event by what people say on the back channel, and that might help you to be able to plan who you're going to invite to be a speaker at your event. You might also find at other events a ready-made audience ready for your event. There might be other similar events where this same group of people come together and group together and get to know one another. So look at the hashtags for those events. Can you engage in that conversation? Can you subtly start to promote your own event through the back channel that's going on around other events? And can you use social media as a way of actually understanding your audience better, understanding what their concerns are, understanding what the topics of interest that they might be considering might be that you could then use and apply to your program planning for your event? So there's lots and lots of uses that we can put social media to by looking at other people's events in the first place. So 3 things that you want to really think about doing. You want to plan your social media activity, you want to prepare for using social media at the event, and you want to promote the use of your social media at the event. So planning, you want to make sure that you really think about access to technology during the event. Are you going to enable Wi-Fi for your guests? Will there be good mobile reception? How are you going to resource social media activity? You as an event manager probably won't have time to do this unless it's a very small scale event. You're probably going to be too preoccupied by other things. So think about having dedicated resource in other people to actually just manage the social media for the event and do nothing else at all. And how are you going to follow up on the conversations that you have? What are you going to do around those conversations? What are you going to do with that content afterwards? In your preparations, you need to make sure that people have the equipment, that all the sites and spaces are set up, that hashtags are registered, that hashtags are made known and promoted on your event promotional materials. Make sure that you've set up any kind of visualizations, any kind of screens where you might be showing the back channel stream. Make sure that you know that that content works and that that technology is going to work for you on the day. Think about the need for plasma screens, for projectors around the venues in order to show people that there is a back channel going on, that there is chatter around the event. And make sure that you think long and hard about promoting your use of social media at the event. This can include at the most serious level ensuring that your audience is aware that you are recorded or taking photographs and that they may be used online, through to the more functional things to do with social media, like making your hashtags known, making particular Twitter accounts or pages or spaces or lanyard sections known, and really just encouraging your audience to actually engage with the social media activity during the event. So plan, prepare and promote. You might also consider how your event can actually be used to create some kind of social media buzz in itself. Sometimes we think about social media as helping to promote an event, but how can an event possibly even promote your social media activity? This might lead to a complete rethinking of our events. we might start to create events that are just going to create some kind of buzz online. We might invite particular speakers that we know people are going to talk about online, or the kind of speakers that are going to attract an audience who are highly influential and highly vocal online, because we know by doing that those people are going to turn up into our audience and they're going to talk about us and increase the visibility of our organisation through their networks online. So we might want to think about how particular events can do this. I'm going to play a video for you now. This is a recruitment event. It's for a company that wants to recruit MBA students, and this is one of their approaches to recruiting those students into their company.
It's me and my team that puts together the MBA Poker Championship. It's a great opportunity to interact with some of the best and brightest MBA students. It's one of our primary recruiting tools. The primary role is through our President's Associate Program, where we have both a summer internship opportunity for first-year MBAs as well as a full-time opportunity for post-MBA graduation into the PA program.
I want to be a decision maker. That's the reason I went to law school and to pursue my MBA. And with Caesars, I really think they give you that opportunity right from the jump.
So the President's Associate Program allows you to come to the company and rotate through different functions and departments to, number one, get to know the business, number two, broaden your skill set, and definitely get exposure to any area in the business that you'd like to progress to.
Here we are bringing in the best talent that we have around the country to interview for these very coveted spots. And that's something that Caesars Entertainment does because they recognize that this is the future.
So I'll stop that video there. You get the idea of it. They host this annual poker competition in order to help create some kind of buzz around the particular company. Now, it might not in this case be designed to create social media buzz, but this is very much the kind of event that people will talk about online because it's different, because it's distinctive, and because it will capture people's imagination. And when events capture people's imagination, they're more likely to share them online. And particularly with a group like this, MBA students are going to be connected with other MBA students. So they're within that influential network where they're going to see each other and what each other's doing. So it will enable the company to be able to reach out to other people. So this is about rethinking what the purpose of an event actually might be. Is the purpose of an event purely to have the event and to achieve something at the event, or might the purpose of the event actually be to generate some online coverage for our organisations? So that's it on our thoughts around the use of social media in events. I hope that's been helpful. At Pickle Jar Communications, we do offer planning and consultancy services to help people do this. We can also manage your social media at events for you if you wish. We're really, really happy to have a conversation about this with you. If you want to get in touch and drop me a line at any time, I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you.